Welcome to the show. I am your host, Catherine McCord. Welcome to Career Launch Live. We're so happy to have everyone with us this morning. And I have the wonderful, the amazing Hollis Roberts. I'm going to go ahead and bring her on.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Hollis.
On today.
I'm wonderful. I'm a little excited to have you here because I keep having questions asked of me lately that I'm dying to ask you.
Oh, I'm
And get
excited.
your
It's always a good time when I get to join you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, first of all, for those few people who will be watching that have not seen you on the show before, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Hollis Roberts. I am the co-owner of Career Design. We specialize in helping clients connect with careers that align with the kind of life they want for themselves and tap into their superpowers. I am excited to be here talking about interviews today because I am pretty passionate about this subject and not following the script and starting to show up as yourself. So I can't wait to dig in.
Thank you, Hollis. Yeah, it's one of my favorite subjects too because it's usually done so poorly by recruiting professionals. So it really is important to have a quality interview. And one thing that I like to stress is that being good at interviewing is not the responsibility of the person who is being interviewed. It's the responsibility of the one doing the interviewing. If you're HR, hiring manager, whatever, it's your job to be good at it, not theirs. It doesn't matter unless you're hiring them to be a recruiter or an HR. Who cares if they're good at interviewing? You need them to be good at whatever in the world it is that they do. So the responsibility is on us. Would you agree with that?
I can see your point of view. From my seat, what I say is I think when you have a great recruiter, it is a much better conversation. But as an individual, I get a chance to own my career. And if I'm walking to an interview, I don't have to let the interviewer dictate what I get to share about myself. So I have pretty strong views that you should be prepared for the interview and what you want to say. The questions don't dictate what you want to say about yourself. You can prepare and interject it at the points that make sense.
And that absolutely is also true. I put all of the responsibility on the HR recruiters, but you should never, to your point, let anyone dictate what message you get out. And what is happening with my hair? I just want to address that this morning. I don't understand. I'm having a weird hair day. Good morning, Pam. Good morning to you. So one of the things, so you're talking about not letting people dictate what happens. And one of the things that I try to talk about, because people will ask me, well, how do I get around employment gaps? How do I get around this or that? As I always say, well, answer the question directly and briefly, but then spin it to whatever information you actually want them to focus on. So how do you go about that? I want to address that first, because that's the most common question, is how to get around these uncomfortable questions. How do you get around them?
So the long answer is it's more about a mindset. So if you believe that your gap is a problem, it is a problem. When you start understanding that it's part of your bigger story, it changes the narrative in your head, and changing the narrative in your head will change what comes out of your mouth in an interview. So that's the broad answer. The more direct one is exactly the same as what you said, which is address it head on. People know when you're trying to cover something up and move on and you don't want it to be talked about, and that's a landmine. So address it head on, but then know your story and understand how it fits. So if you left an organization because, let's say you left even pretty abruptly because it was a bad situation, don't try to just cover it up and move on so quickly. Say, it really wasn't in the right environment for me at that time. What's important to me? I've spent 15 years in a career really helping organizations do X, Y, Z. I understood I wasn't going to be able to do that. And I really wanted what's best for the clients. And what was best for the clients is that I was no longer a part of that team. And so you're just showing that you understand the bigger picture of something.
Yes.
You answered, you gave the story, and then they will
have
questions or concerns.
Spin it to the information that you want them to have. And everyone knows I'm very anti even asking why were you on, why do you have an employment gap? I never, that's nobody's business. That's your own personal reason. But they may want to ask something like, and reasonably so, did you do anything to keep your skills sharp during this time, especially if it was a long gap? That may be something, if it's the most recent thing that you have going on, that may be something reasonable that they want to ask about. So we answered the biggest question of the day, but let's kind of back it up a little bit. I want to hear what you think about prepping for interviews, because everybody has different opinions, right? But so what is your method for prepping for an interview?
First, I love asking the question when I do interview prep with people. I love asking the question like, all right, so where do you usually start? And 9 out of 10 times people tell me they start with that list of like, well, I start thinking about my biggest strength and my biggest weakness. And that to me is the same as trying to prep for the test. We're not trying to prep for the test. We're trying to see if we're a fit for the job. And that's a different kind of preparation. So instead of just seeing if you can get the answers that'll get you to the next round, start by researching the company, researching the position, and spending time thinking about what value would you bring? How would you help? How do your superpowers add value to the client, the team? And start getting clear on that. I always say, think of 3 things that you want to walk away with the interviewer knowing about you. And those 3 things, you can find any way to interject them into the conversation. When they ask those, what's your greatest strength? It will come out because you already know what you want them to know about you.
Yes, absolutely. It really is amazing to me how rarely, is that a word? How rarely, I don't know what's up with my brain today. How rarely people realize that what you present and your preparation and that's what's going to get them excited. That's what does it. It's not the, having the scripted answer. And those people occasionally go along and you might get to the next round, but you're not going to get the job. You need to be prepped. You need to show excitement in the role. That is the kind of thing that is going to help you get to that next level.
Well, and what I would say, Catherine, is it's actually pretty problematic if you do get the job and you are trying to answer to the test, because that was just, I'm trying to win the competition. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we get in that mindset because we're really afraid and we need money or whatever the case may be. And in the long run, most people I know don't like to search for a job, which means you want to stay somewhere, which means you have to show up as yourself. Tell them what they'd be buying. Tell them what they'd be contracting. Get to know them so you know what you'd be agreeing to. And that's the important part of an interview.
It really is. It really is. And that connection. And people misunderstand the connection aspect a lot. I think a lot of people think it's, oh, we need to talk about our puppies or we need to talk about whatever, which is fine if you do, by the way. But that's not really it. It's the connection to the job. So everything, and it's the same thing with resume advice, right? So everything that you put in there should be tied to what you're going to do for them and how you're going to succeed for them. That's what everybody really wants to know. And so the better that you present that, the better off you are. One thing that I've always done in interviews is make sure that they understand that no matter what, I get the job done. No matter what I don't see failure as an option. So I will learn, I will grow, and so those are the things that I make sure that they know. And hey, if I don't know it now, guess what? I'll be an expert in a couple of weeks because I will dig in and I will know. And so those kinds of things, those are the things that make you stand out, right? So what about the intro? So, you come in, you want to make that great first impression. What are your tips for making that first great impression?
This is another area I think we were given a really crummy formula to start out with. Well, I have 15 years of experience, and then go through a list and just talk about your entire career. And that formula doesn't tell a company what they're really wanting to know.
Right.
What they're really wanting to know is, what would I be getting? Tell me about you and what you do best, how your experiences ladder up to that, and what you'd be bringing to my team. So that's what you can prepare. Start thinking about, what is your greatest superpower? How has that played out throughout the course of your career? And how would that bring value to the team that you're trying to join?
I would completely agree with that, actually. I think that it's, again, what can you do for me? That's what people really want to know. It's kind of like when you go on a first date, which granted I haven't done in about 20 years, but it's kind of like when you go on a first date and you know, and all you talk about is your ex. Ugh. You know, I hear people complain about that all the time, that that's all somebody did. I don't want to hear about all that. I want to hear about, you know, you as a human and what we might be able to have together. That's what I want to know. And it's the same thing when you're interviewing for a job. The other thing that I like to touch on with people is that kind of ties into all of this is you can't have the stank on you. You know, you can't have the desperation on you. And again, think about that in terms of dating. When you're out dating and that person just keeps coming at you, it's like, okay, all right, back off, ease up a little bit. Same thing in the professional world. I have had people, I'll do whatever it takes to get this job. Oh my God, just anything that you need. And just panic. You can hear the panic in their voice. And it's so counterproductive. It's so off-putting. Now, I will sometimes still further those people and I just coach them because that's the kind of position that I'm in. But if you are already talking to the employer, you've probably just lost your opportunity. So you need to do things to get, again, back to the mindset, to get your mindset right, to best present yourself. So what are some things that you do before to make sure that you don't sound panicked when you're giving responses?
So most people, when they're getting ready for an interview, they don't want to do all of these extras. So they think, no, I just need to review my resume, make sure I know. And they're very focused on the task at hand. And so it can be a little uncomfortable when I say the first thing you need to do is dig in and make sure you understand who you are. If you don't understand who you are and the value you bring, then there's nothing to prepare. So start there. And, you know,
it's true.
Don't know how to answer questions. They're not looking for, can you do the job? They saw your resume. They brought you in because they see you have some years of experience. But yeah, that's where to start preparing. So what I think can be a really easy tool for digging in and going through that is open up the job description. And instead of saying, yep, done that, think through, how would you do that for this team? How would you bring your superpower to that? So if it says ability to coordinate large scale projects, think of an example maybe from your past, but even more so, think of how you'd approach that. What would that thing you do best bring to that task, role, and client team?
Mental image. It's that you want them. It's kind of like writing a story. If you're an author, right? You have to bring that mental image. You have to really get inside people's head and get their imagination going. That's what you want to do in an interview, if you possibly can. I want to hit on too, because you kind of mentioned this, your superpower, and you know how I am about superpowers. I have a whole show about that. So,
yeah,
the whole show about superpowers. So that's, to me, that's a key element too, is not only realizing your superpower, but picking which one to focus on for an interview. Or maybe there's multiple ones, but really focusing on that as something that's important. And I want to be specific. So one thing, at least in my experience, that you want to avoid in interviews is focusing too much on the personal. People sometimes do that. They'll focus way too much on the personal aspect. Even things like, I'm kind, I'm this and that. Okay, yeah, that's great. And maybe if you're a nurse or something like that, that's very relevant. But focus on your superpowers for business. So for instance, one of the things with me, because of my neurodiversity, is that I just go 90 to nothing, like a crazy person. I mean, it is like a steam engine train just going down the tracks. Nothing's going to stop it. It's going to happen. So I use that as something that I talk about, because professionally that helps. Because when you have a project, when you have a deadline, when you have something that needs to get done, that type of mentality really works. So I can tie it in. Another one that I have developed over the years is the ability to have empathy for people, and to really, and not sympathy, empathy, and to really kind of relate to other people. So I think, and so I use that a lot, so with my teams, I can do that. With my candidates, I can do that. And so that, and that cultivating relationships really works. So that's how I tie everything in. So I think part of it too is tying even those personal traits into the professional as well and showcasing.
You just gave such a good example of that, because I was thinking about the word kind as you said that and going, well, I don't think kind is the challenge. You can bring the kindness into the interview even. The challenge is that we haven't thought all the way through what kindness does and why you want to
Yes.
bring it up. And so you might, it's really helpful to have a partner to go through the process of understanding your superpower. It can be a teammate, a coach, a friend, whatever. But to say, well, I know I'm really kind. How does that show up at work? And they may say, you're the first one to sit down and listen to people and be empathetic. And because you're empathetic, you're really able to get the trust of your team quickly. Well, now
Yes.
what you can bring into the interview is, I'm really great at bringing trust or building trust quickly because I'm really kind, I'm empathetic, and I listen. So it's not that we can't bring the kindness in, it's that we haven't taken the time to understand and be thoughtful about what that brings and how to
Yes.
translate it into the interview.
I think we're hitting on a really good theme here of be intentional and be mindful.
Yes.
and really understand yourself before you go in an interview. It's the same thing. Again, I'm going to tie it back to dating, so that's one of the easiest analogies. If you understand yourself better and what you need and what you expect and what you want, you're going to land the right partner, the right position, the right opportunity for yourself a whole heck of a lot quicker if you understand yourself.
So I saw this little clip of a American Idol episode recently, and it was of this girl who was a beauty queen. And she came up there and she was a fantastic singer. And at the end, she told the panel, I can do it all. I can sing country, I can sing pop. So whatever you need me to sing, I'll do it. And the answer was, we don't actually need you to do everything. We want to know what you do best. And I thought, man, if I could just tell that to everybody interviewing, it's not that you can do all the things, because nobody can. That's a lie.
Yeah.
And it's knowing what you do best. And yeah, I can dabble and be a little bit dangerous in the other areas.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that is a great way to say it. You don't need to be an expert in everything. You don't. And like I said, for me, it's that I'm fearless. So if I don't know something, I will figure it out. I don't know everything, but I will charge headfirst into a project and deal with it. And Jason commented about the authenticity, and so I want to take a moment to make a comment about that. I was in an interesting discussion with some wonderful humans on LinkedIn about this, and authenticity is often misunderstood. So there's this idea that authenticity is that you have to be all of you all the time and every minute of every day. Mm-hmm. And God, let me tell you, I'm always authentically me, but you don't want me to be all of me all the time. That would be way too extra. We don't, nobody wants that. But what it does mean is that you are comfortable with yourself. It's really more, I think, a relationship with yourself. Mm-hmm. You know who you are. You are confident in who you are. And then you can project that to other people. And it's not about being all of you all the time, but with every interaction that you have, being true to that relationship with yourself. And that ties into integrity. And that's a big word too, that a lot of people miss in interviewing, is integrity and showcasing your integrity. That's so big. So big. And you bring a lot of integrity.
Well, you know what? I think you just nailed it, because I've been digging in. I love the terminology of self-leadership, because it means leading who you are and owning those pieces of yourself and how you deploy them. So there's some times that my first instinct is to get really frazzled and frustrated, and nobody else wants to see that part. And it may not be inappropriate in every situation. So showing myself all the time doesn't mean, word vomiting or being inappropriate in the situations. But
yes,
it's working with integrity and understanding that you come from a place of realness and you are trying your very best and are honest about a situation. And one of the ways, if you don't mind me sharing a story, that I think that you can notice this is when you're ready to leave a job and you start interviewing, think about, why are you leaving that job and what did you promise in the interview? And that's
Oh, yeah.
oftentimes a huge disconnect, because you went in saying, I'm really organized. And I've done this before. I'm really organized because I wanted to be very organized and I wanted to bring that to the table. I'm not very organized. So when I left, it was because I was responsible for too many details. That was my fault. That
Oh,
was my
yeah.
fault, because I was leaving for the same reasons, or for some of the strengths that I told them at the beginning of the interview. So it can be really helpful to reflect upon, am I being authentic, and what could I do differently in the next interview so that I could get closer to the kind of job I want, and working with that authenticity.
That is a genius example too. I've had similar. So one of the ones that I kept telling people was that I was very flexible and I was very accommodating. Well, that's true, but there is a caveat to that. Is that, and this, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but this is how I work. If I know that something is not right, or that it's unethical in any way, I won't bend on that. If I know that, or even if I know that something could be done way better and the way that it's being done is archaic and it's going to slow everybody down and make it difficult, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it the better way, because that's how my brain works. And I will actually malfunction if I can't do it that way.
Yeah.
So I will actually not be able to work effectively if you try to make me work in a way that's not efficient. I need efficiency. I crave it. I can't function without it. So what I did is I started spinning that, and I started talking about how I'm an efficiency nut, and how I will work to make everything more efficient and more productive. And I started talking about how important my ethics are to me. I started talking about that. And then I said, but I am also flexible and I do like to work with my teams. I like to hear ideas. I will change course because somebody else has a better idea, because that's really what I was trying to communicate, is that I love to collaborate with other people and listen to their ideas and their thoughts. I did learn, I didn't think I was that flexible. And then someone else pointed out to me at one point that they were like, but you listen to other people's ideas and you change direction all the time. And I'm going, oh, that's what people mean. Like I just had this like whole other perception of what that meant. But that is a strength that I have. And it can also be a weakness that I can't function without efficiency, because some companies are not ready for that change. So I am not right for every company, and I will make people insane if they're not willing to evolve and grow. I will. And I flat out tell people that now. I will make you crazy if you're not ready to grow. That's just how it is.
Knowing that about yourself should allow you as well to ask better questions, because it's important that your authenticity is being able to say what you're about and how you work, but it's also asking really good questions so that you know the environments where you thrive, and that you can vet out that the organization would be a place where you could thrive in their system.
And I want to hit on that too. So it's not just about them, it's about you. You matter too. You have an opinion. You ask questions. You get to, be in the driver's seat too. That's up to you. You get to decide if you go work for this company, not just them. So remember that too. It's not just about them picking you, it's about you picking them. And I think that's a very powerful mindset to have, is to remember that you do have power. And especially right now, folks, it is a candidate market. You can be picky. You really can.
And I've heard a lot of people tell me that they're concerned about asking too many questions because they don't want to seem needy. And I want to reframe that a little bit, because asking questions isn't just, what are you going to give me? It's also asking prying questions to understand what you would be agreeing to. You do not look under the hood and you get yourself into a situation where you ask no questions and then you didn't like the environment, you put yourself there. So make sure you know what you're saying yes to.
Yes, absolutely. It is about understanding and comprehending. One thing I do at the beginning of every interview is run people through the company, the position, the team, anything I can think of in my brain. And I say, okay, do you have any questions? First thing in the interview, outside of, hey, how you doing? That's the very first thing that we do. And it shocks a lot of people that that's the first step. But I think it's so important to remember that other side. So if you're the one doing the interviewing, think about their questions too. Think about, I get complimented, and this isn't a brag, this is a statement of effort here. That I get complimented on how I interview all the time, constantly, every week, multiple times. And it's because people are not, and I ask them why, and without fail, I get, you made me laugh, which is always great. But really, but really, the one thing that every single person tells me is it's because you cared about what I thought and what I needed to know.
Mm-hmm.
It matters. It matters. Think about that other person. Think about what you can do for them, what questions they may have, and really, really integrate there. So the last topic I really want to hit on with you, because you and I have talked about this some on my other show, Supermania. The truth is that there are some biases out there. There are some forms of discrimination, whether it's age, which is very real. It's a very common type of discrimination. There is some gender, some race, neurodiversity, and physical diversity. There are, people are always afraid to ask for accommodations. I know very few people that are bold enough to just go, "Yep, this is my accommodation. Deal with it or don't." And I love that. I love that attitude, by the way. But I understand why somebody may not be that way. I understand that, because I've received the discrimination. I've seen the discrimination, and it's a problem. So when people are prepping and they know that they would do better with some sort of accommodation, I just call them options. I think accommodation is part of that word, is part of a problem. It sounds like you have to go, out of your way. With really, as a Southerner, I'm just thinking, yes, be accommodating, be helpful, provide options, but that's all it is. It's just an option. So if they know that they need that, how should they prep accordingly, and how should that be addressed?
Well, I guess I want to first say that I don't know a single human being in this world that doesn't need some form of accommodation. There's just a whole laundry list of accommodations that we've become really acceptable, or have become really acceptable. And so if you are on that list, you're okay asking for the things that you're looking for. Like, hey, I like to take a lot of vacations. I need more vacation time. Can you include that as part of my package? After you have some years of experience, that's okay to ask. So when you understand how you thrive, you can better ask for what you need. And so when you reframe to say, instead, I don't fit into the system, so I need a special accommodation, that's different than I understand now how I can add the most value. And that requires that I have a place to work that is silent, where I'm not getting constant interruptions. Is that something that you offer here? That's a completely different way to do the same thing that you need. You now understand yourself, and you're trying to see if they have the environment where you will do your best work.
And I would like to point out, at this point of the conversation, people always notice my headset. It looks like I'm an airplane pilot, I'm aware. And it's because of the sensory factors that I have. And this helps me to focus, to not be distracted, to not get overly stressed out. And so whenever I'm on screen and I'm presenting, almost every time without fail, you will see this headset. And it's just part of life. And if I was in a W-2 position, this would be an accommodation.
Yeah.
Folks, if you're on the other side of the desk and you're interviewing, just make all of this standard. Just as you're interviewing people, hey, what do you need? What do you need? Would you like to do headset? Do you want to do Google Meets? Do you want to do a phone? Do you want to do Zoom? What works for you? Do you need speech? Would you like speech to test? Is there anything we can do auditory? You don't need to ask all of these questions, but just make it standard practice of, here are some different options that we have, that we offer for you. Just make it standard. Have little links, have little options.
So great. And I love that there are allies like you, Catherine, because it can be hard to find companies that will have that kind of conversation in an interview. So if you know you have needs that are not common for organizations to offer, going to someone like you and saying, hey, where do I start? And you being able to continue to partner with organizations in that way is transformational, because then you're already in a subsect of, people are doing this all the time, where I only want to work remotely. Where are the companies that allow remote work? It's the same thing, just a different Validation.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, just be confident, and again, this is tying into be authentically you. And that's about, again, about the relationship with yourself. So know you, know what you need, know what you want, really get in there and understand your strengths and weaknesses. Get in there and dig in and really take a day or so and just process, think about reality versus inner perception, because sometimes we're not always the most honest about ourselves. And just take those moments, get to know yourselves, and then project that, and it'll be fine. And the calmer you are, to your point earlier, Hollis, the calmer you are about everything, the calmer and most comfortable everybody else will be too.
Yes. The way in which you say it makes a difference. If you are nervous asking and you think it's an unreasonable ask, just to tie this back to the beginning of our conversation,
Yes.
then it is. Then it is, because that's the energy you're bringing towards it of like, are you willing to work with me because I may have specific demands, is what it comes out sounding like.
Yes.
Reality, it's that you have done the work to understand how you thrive and do work best. And you're asking for what you need, which is the only thing employers usually want from you, is to know, how am I going to get the most out of you? You know it. There's a bunch of people who are still trying to fake it till they make it over there, but you are not, you know.
And that's a good way to articulate that. I like that. I think that, so again, folks, this is just talking about getting to know yourself, how to best project that. That's how you interview with Panache. That's what you do. You just show off yourself, present yourself in an authentic fashion and with integrity, just displaying your ethics, your values, what you bring to the table, tie that into what they do, and you'll be good. You will be good. And so with that, I want to tell everybody how to get hold of you. So Hollis, how do we find you?
Yes, career-design.com is my website. I'm also on LinkedIn. So you can find me, Hollis Roberts. I'm one of the only one, if not the only one on there.
There are not too many Hollis Roberts out there. I got to tell you, there's not.
They're not. And I just love to support people. My goal is to create a workforce where we all are able to show up exactly who we are. And the more of us out there who are doing that, the more normalized that will become. So I like to help people through discovering who they are and their superpowers, as well as preparing for that job search.
Hollis and I share that mission. It is something that we both value very much. So please connect to both of us on LinkedIn, reach out with any questions that you may have. And if you need help with your job search, this lady right here, over there, sorry, is the one for you. Thank you, everybody, and join us next week. See you later.
Bye.